When a family man is fired from his job at a paper company, the competition for a similar position is so fierce, he plans to murder the other potential candidates. This is the latest film from Chan-wook Park, and as expected, it's a tense thriller with touches of dark comedy. This is No Other Choice. Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
It's not my fault I lost my job.
You could have just said No Other Choice, like every character in this movie says at one point.
Yeah, well, just saying the title of the movie feels lazy.
Okay, we have it's a heavily quoted. This is some movies don't say their title in the script. Some do it once. This one does it about 50 times, which that's not a complaint. It actually feels thematically very on point that it's said by every character at some point, pretty much. But just worth mentioning. But yes, this is the Collector's Cut. It's a movie podcast, and we are wrapping up today one of our seasons. We do seasons of reviews on this show. This has been 2025 in film. We did 10 movies, this being the 10th. So we're saying goodbye, but we try to do some critically acclaimed films from 2025, some interesting stuff that seem to always get recommended, and we're finishing off with Chan-wook Park's No Other Choice. And I intentionally put this one at the end because I like the director a lot, so I felt like I had something to look forward to. No matter how bad some of them might have felt in the middle, I'm like, oh no, I know I've got some gold at the end. Presumably, he could disappoint me. That's possible.
Oh yeah, entirely.
But you know, odds are in the favor, so I intentionally put this at the end. But it had gotten good buzz. I'm a big fan of the director's work and have seen not all of his movies, but a good number of them. And have been watching them since maybe I was a teenager, pretty much. But back when Old Boy was like kind of brand new, that was kind of the big hot thing if you were into foreign movies at the time. So that is just a bit of background there. But we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get to the spoilers. And if you're enjoying the show, do hit the like button on YouTube. Helps out a bunch. Give us 5 stars in your podcast app of choice. And we will, of course, tell you about Patreon at the end of the show, where you can support us and get some bonus stuff. But No Other Choice is about a father, a husband, who loses his job at a paper company and tries to get creative about how to deal with his unemployment and how to find a new job in the same field. And I'll leave it there.
That's the level of spoiler. All right.
Okay. He does. He maybe starts to plot potential murders. Okay, right. I'll throw that in. But I just thought it was funny to say. He's handling unemployment well.
No, absolutely. It's look. This is a twisty turny movie. It's a lot of big stuff going on, but I feel like you got to at least say the bare bones level of what he plans to do, because that's kind of a major informing factor for the rest of it.
So obviously looking forward to this going in. Have you seen any Chan-wook Park films before?
No, I feel like at one point I sat down to watch Old Boy and for whatever reason just didn't. But yeah, I effectively have not watched anything.
Oh, well, that's just good to know. There is definitely a season in our future somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
Of Chan-wook Park. That is
That's
absolutely
be the most
happening.
Depressing season to ever exist on this show.
They're not all depressing movies. Some of them are.
Everything I know about his movies, the ones that I do know, Old Boy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, I think is the name of the other one.
Yeah, that's it's a great movie.
Yeah, not particularly happy.
It depends on your point of view, I suppose.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's a cheery movie. No, I mean, some of his other stuff does vary a little bit, but he's got some phenomenal movies in the tank. The Vengeance trilogy is the one that gets brought up a lot. I think The Handmaiden is phenomenal. I actually haven't seen his like last movie that he did, which is Decision to Leave. I've not got around to that one, so I'll probably save that for whenever we do a season now. But got a whole host of gems in the filmography. So. With all that said, though, we're getting into No Other Choice here, so let's not faff about anymore. David, what did you think of No Other Choice?
I really like it. I think that it is a highly creative film for it was a high concept in a theory, but like in playing it out, it does feel very much like, I wouldn't say exactly what I expected, but it doesn't have any like significant twists, I would say, that take it into like a totally different ball game. So I don't know. I like all the ways that like the camera is played with, the way that the characters interact with each other. It's got some really cool dynamics to it. I guess my big thing that is not any fault of the movie at all. It just feels so steeped in symbolism and like everything standing for something else and like everything having these double meanings to it and all this stuff. And I wish I had more time to sit and stew on like what everything can theoretically stand for. For instance, very early on in this movie, there is toothache. That's a recurring motif throughout this movie. It just keeps on coming up. And I'm sure that someone could write a goddamn paper on what the toothache means in the context of everything that's said and done here. But I don't know. It's so many of those things over and over again that I just feel kind of ill-prepared to go into like a full in-depth review sort of thing. But I like the movie. I can go into it at least saying that much. It's a solidly made movie. Without spoiling anything, I mean, it's very, I don't want to say relatable because it's not relatable, but there are the issues that are brought up that I think everyone can kind of say, like, the Breaking Bad sort of style of like, I don't approve of the methods, but I see how we got there.
I think I get what you're saying, though. It's just that, I mean, relatable's maybe the wrong word, but you can relate to all of the issues that are being faced by the character and the subjects. And they're very topical subjects. It's tackling something that's very current. Certainly by the end, you kind of feel like, oh, I had something to say about a lot of things that are going on right now. Stuff that is worldwide, that is not specific to Korea or anything like that. It's very much applying to everyone. So,
yep.
Yeah, no, I liked it a lot. I think it's got that zany, darkly funny quality to it at times, where you're okay to kind of enjoy the absurdity and laugh at the scenarios that are at play sometimes. But it does have weight to what's going on with the characters. It is very kind of playful with how it does dish out its information and cuts around, and feels like I think that's something that Chan-wook Park's kind of always had, is just a really strong sense of like playing with how the scenes play out for the audience, where this movie's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. I don't think you really feel that runtime too much, because it does such a good job of like it's like he's dancing. It's like he's dancing in the edit suite almost with how, and it's not just the edit suite, I mean it's also the script and how, like, because the character kind of bounces from like this one kind of concern, and you can almost split the movie into a few chapters once the main plot set up of like different things, and it feels like they kind of neatly weave in and out and then back into each other and all that kind of stuff. So I think that it's very well done. It feels like a Chan-wook Park movie. It feels like it's got something to say. Performances are very good, particularly from the two leads, who play the main character of Mansu and his wife Miri. I think both of them do a really good job. Honestly, the only real thing I could say is that I don't think it's his best movie, and that's maybe the biggest critique, is that I'm still going to put The Handmaiden above this. I'm still going to put Old Boy and maybe Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance above it, but that's not a damning statement, because the bar there is so very, very high that it's doing its own thing. It's one that might even grow on me more in time, because it does feel like you said, there's a lot of things in here that I can see there being like extra symbolism that I'm not necessarily picking up on, even though I get the feeling that there is something there. Like I can absolutely get that. So no, it's very good. It's very good. I'm not disappointed in the least.
Yeah, I mean, with the not his best movie, I mean, the way I always think of that sort of, whenever it's so many hits from a certain director, it's like Christopher Nolan or James Cameron, where it's like, even if you're outside the top 5, you're still in good company.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, no, and he's, Chan-wook Park's track record is arguably more consistent than like some other big directors at this point. With, it's been all the way back to, JSA, I think might have been technically his first movie. Nothing to do with the comic book characters before you get your hopes up.
That's already in my head. I'm sorry. I can't see anything else.
Nah, joint security area. It's about the border between North and South Korea.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, no, really good stuff. It's the movie starts intentionally kind of like this idyllic, cheesy, family barbecue in the back garden, and like it's almost too vibrant and looks kind of fake, but that's kind of the point where it's like too perfect. And then it's like, fast forward, jobless. Oh no, the misery, the dystopia of capitalism settling in. I feel like we definitely have done a few anti or very critical of capitalism movies recently, it feels like.
Oh yeah.
They've been kind of sprinkling in.
That's look, I don't want to get too deep into it on this, happy fun time podcast and all that, but it definitely feels like there's this shift in the air where everyone, even in Hollywood, is just kind of like, we're kind of in the end game, aren't we? Like we're kind of at that state where decisions need to be made about the next steps we take forward.
Yeah. Oh, this is Hollywood before someone corrects you in the chat.
Oh, well, yeah. Nah.
I don't know what Korea's version of Hollywood is, but I
don't know. I'm sure they have one. The people love making up their Bollywoods and their Dollywoods and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure there's one for Korea.
K-wood. To go with K-pop and K-dramas and all the other K things that they have.
Sure. I would like to have one that rhymes with Hollywood, but sure.
K-Hollywood?
Oh, God. What is that? Hollywood. Hallyu, which apparently means Korean wave.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay. Yeah. So the main actor in this, people might recognize if they've been watching Squid Game. Lee Byung-hun is the lead actor. But he's been a prolific actor in Korean stuff for a long time. I remember seeing him all the way back in A Bittersweet Life. And then maybe about 5 years after that, he was in an I Saw the Devil, which is and both movies could end up on seasons at some point on this show. I Saw the Devil, I know it sounds like a horror movie. It's not. It's more of a cop chasing a serial killer kind of thriller type movie.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, me and you got in this conversation after our last recording of, I only really know him from Squid Game, but ever since then, I feel like he's just been popping up everywhere. Like, I keep on seeing him in things.
He's been in a couple of American stuff as well. If you look at his credits, popping up as here or there in different roles. But yeah, so he's very prolific. Sun Ye-jin, who plays Miri, I don't know. And when I look up her credits, like, she's got a long list. She's been working for 20 years. Seemingly mostly Korean stuff, if not all Korean stuff, but just none of the Korean movies that I've encountered. So maybe it's just not my type of thing. Maybe she's in a lot of Korean sort of more soapy stuff. I don't know. Maybe it just happenstance. But seems like she's been working a long time as an actress. Just that's the first thing I've seen her in. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So those are the two leads, and it's very much Mansu's film. Like, he is the lead character. She does get a significant role here. Like, she is a significant supporting character where it really does, like, if there's one character we're going to cut to and get just another character on their own, it'll be her. Like, it's not like he has to be there for all of her scenes.
Well, that's so early on in this movie, it's set up how deeply important family is to the main character and how much he values that. And so it is kind of the go-to of like, all right, how are things when he gets fired from his job, how are things breaking down could easily be represented by the mood of the wife. Like, how are things going with her at that moment? Yeah.
And I like that it's not like, because I feel like there's like a more like hammy way that you could tell this story. And certainly I almost imagined as soon as he was getting fired that, immediately the mood at home is going to be terrible. The wife's going to be like, they're going to be fighting all the time and all that. And it's not that at all. She's very supportive. They still have a very healthy relationship. Even if they have a little bicker here or there, they still go back to being quite loving. It's not this comical, oh no, it's just miserable because money's an issue. Like, no, they're still trying to keep their spirits up. Obviously, that may deteriorate a little bit as time goes on.
Right.
But it still very much is there.
Yeah, I also, especially without spoiling it, somewhere in the middle of the movie, they hint that like they've had significant problems in their relationship in the past, and they've both worked and changed and improved on themselves to get to the point they're at now. So I like the idea that like this wasn't always this pristine relationship that we're presented with, so it gives even more force into the idea that when things start going south for them, they can turn it around, they can continue down this relationship and make it work for them.
Yeah, and obviously, this movie is the big themes here. Obviously capitalism, but more specifically this idea of your personal life versus like your corporate life, and which one you value more, and what it takes to make one work, maybe at the expense of the other. These are some of the big topics that are in here. And obviously we'll get into really what it's saying about them all in spoilers. I don't want to give away the goat, but
yeah, I mean, I think a big aspect of that is the idea of what are you willing to sacrifice in order to not only just like get this job, but achieve a goal, like just in the general sense, like what is it worth to do the thing you're trying to do, and what lines are you willing to draw? And you get into that borderline obsession standpoint where the ends will always justify the means. Yeah,
it's really well done in that sense, where like the main character's doing things you don't necessarily agree with, and if anything, maybe jumps to them so quickly, like, wait a minute, I don't know if I'm ready for you to jump to these extreme ends, but it kind of works in this kind of like, again, kind of quirky kind of way to it. So it's like it's saying serious things, but it's being very entertaining whilst it does. But it still leaves you, like, the ending's still quite poignant, where it just leaves you thinking about what you've just seen and the choices that were made. And there was indeed perhaps another choice, dare I suggest. Occasionally, I think there was another choice for most characters in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, without spoiling, it's a recurring motif. His characters kind of just pointing out, like, well, why didn't we do this instead? And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess that was an option. But the characters are so focused, so myopic in their goals that it's like, nah, I never even considered it.
I mean, I think it's more than that. It's this idea of just convincing yourself. Like the idea of saying, I have no other choice, as a way to justify the thing you're about to do, that you've already like kind of convinced yourself is the only thing to do. Right. And sometimes that can be a small thing, sometimes that can be a big thing. But it's like, in the name of like, well, there's no other choice, I have to do this to, keep my boss happy, so I keep my job. But like, he's asked me to bury a hooker? What's that? Well, I've got no other choice because I can't get fired. Yeah, so
absolutely.
It's that kind of, and that's not an example from the movie. I'm just kind of throwing in my own version.
That's just something from Pete's personal history.
Yes. And given that I'm self-employed, it's a especially damning statement.
You just got two chairs sitting opposite each other. You're gonna have to deal with this dead hooker, Pete. But Pete, why?
But yeah, I mean, honestly, like, there's not too much more we could talk about. I mean, I guess, some more technical things. Cinematography is generally very good. I particularly like how it plays with the kind of unique looking house they have at times, where it's got this kind of big sort of balcony above the first floor, and it uses, there's times where it'll do like kind of like a pull focus thing, but because of all the the sort of the right angles, because it's kind of got this sort of like sort of stepping kind of structure sideways.
It's a brutalist like structure. Yeah. It
almost like is like an optical illusion. There was one shot in particular where I almost felt getting trippy, because it was like, oh wait, is the building moving, or am I, what's going on here? And it's just because of the perspective of the way the camera's moving towards it, and like the lower parts like moving, but the upper part of the building looks like it's staying still. It's like, is it extending? What's happening here? There's lots of trippy things like that. There's shots from like above where you can see someone on a balcony and someone else in the back garden like doing something, and it plays with the geography of them being aware of each other and things like that. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, a lot of it feels like very someone who's very strong with the camera. They know exactly like how to make these certain effects work to give these moods. I will say somewhere around like the 2-hour mark, towards the mid to back end of the third act, it just goes all in on like a lot of really, really creative shots of like, staring down the bottom end of a beer bottle and like seeing the person's like misformed reflection throughout it, like all that stuff, and it just goes for like 20 minutes of just boom 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 creative shot after creative shot.
Favorite part of that is I don't know what you call this, but they've got the shot glass inside the beer glass, right?
I think it's called a bomb shot, they call it.
but the camera's like at the bottom of the glass looking up, so you can actually see the shot glass come down and hit you in the face as it. It's just, again, it's a very creative, like, visual, and not even just visual, but the sound of it, even the clanking as it's coming back and hitting you, very, very well in your face. I mean, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like, specifically when we get to that point there, like they're just going for broke with all the cinematography. They're going nuts with it. Everything else in the movie is still great, but that's where it really feels like it takes a step up.
Yeah. And sometimes it's more simplistic and like, just something simple as how someone's framed as they're standing in the bathroom, and it kind of mirrors how someone else is standing in the other bathroom. Or sometimes it's just a case of, oh, this character's on his knees during this scene, so we're going to keep the camera down here and never look up. So just some simple things like that, just really effective.
Yeah, and then even in like the text of the movie, there's also you have the daughter character who, her entire script, everything she says is just echoing things that we hear from other characters, and it's given, a different meaning depending on when she says it or how she says it or anything like that. But throughout the movie, you get that same sort of thing where the people that Mansu encounters, the things that go on in their lives, he starts applying to his own life, and you get these different mirrors and reflections of how he sees himself.
Yeah, it's hard not to. It's like he's listening to like another couple have a conversation at one point about 40 minutes to an hour in, something in that range, and they're having this conversation about their past and their relationship and so on, and I'm like, oh man, everything they're saying might apply to his relationship. And then later on he starts quoting this conversation to his wife, and then kind of paraphrasing parts of it, and it's like, yeah, okay, so we're kind of doing this like echo chamber out of ideas kind of thing, where it's like and that's kind of also reflected, like you say, in the kids. The daughter just always repeats stuff that the mother said. The son's starting to, like, who's a bit older, he's like a teenager, he's starting to show behavior that you can sort of see maybe how he's gotten some of this from the extreme decisions that his father sometimes makes, so on and so on. Yeah.
Well, I do think a very strong thing that this movie does at not the start, but once we get through the initial bit of it, is it has a little bit of a time skip, and it does give this little implication of how far things have gone downhill in that time period without actually having to show that it has gone down there. You get the feeling of that desperation has already brewed for a while.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but their way of showing Mansu's in his element and he's happy at the start is that he's got a little mustache, and then that mustache is gone when he's unemployed. Which it's usually the opposite. Usually you let the beard grow out when you're unemployed. Whereas he's like this, got this perfect little trimmed pencil mustache, and then unemployed, no, clean shaven, miserable.
Facial hair is reserved for people who are higher up in their jobs in the Korean culture,
and also my culture.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm the pinnacle. Look at me.
Yeah. Is your culture, are we just talking Scottish in general? Because I feel like a lot of Scots have facial hair.
You could apply it to the entire Western civilization if you like. I'm okay with that. Okay.
All right. I'll just stick with my patchy ass beard. I'm all right with it.
And music is also a factor here. I wouldn't say that I necessarily like found the score to be that memorable, but it does do a few select sequences where it really makes a song stand out in one way or another. It really uses it as part of the scene. The daughter's one like thing is that she plays the cello, so we hear that kind of occasionally. So it does have like a lot of musical kind of elements, even if the score itself wasn't something that was sticking out to me and being like, and because Chan-wook Park's movies have in the past had excellent scores that are very memorable. I mean, Old Boy's a good example of like, oh no, there's tracks from that you can sit and listen to and have a good time. But no, good stuff here though in terms of how it uses music and how it uses sound throughout. So
yeah, no, I mean, I don't feel like I recognized it the whole way through, but like you said, it really draws attention to it several times. And I would say like the midpoint of the movie is probably the standout moment that feels like it's straight out of a James Gunn sort of like, oh, we're taking this licensed track and just doing crazy stuff to it.
Yeah, and I know there's also some stuff with just other sounds as well, like the sound effects that aren't like super advanced from like a like the craft of it, but in terms of the artistic choice of how they're used, very, very smart, particularly towards the end. So yeah, I mean, I think we have to say spoilers so we can get into it and really start discussing it properly. But it comes pretty recommended, dare I say.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I really don't have. I think that if you know for a fact that this movie is a dark comedy in a lot of ways, then you're probably set. I don't think you need to know like the specifics beyond that.
Yeah, dark comedy / thriller, I guess, would be my genre labels of choice. So we'll get into it. Spoilers for No Other Choice, and we have to talk about spoilers because we have no other choice.
We can just end the podcast here, Pete. Give it a rating. Move on.
That's not a choice.
Damn
it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have to actually go through like everything. I feel like in talking about the ideas, we're probably going to jump around a little bit. Because it is a very strong thematic movie with these different sort of like through lines. Things like obviously the corporate work ladder and this idea of being replaced by machines, people getting like their jobs cut and so on, but also this idea of his like masculinity and this idea of being the husband and like concerns about his wife possibly straying because he now sees himself as weak and is not providing in the way that he's supposed to, so he feels emasculated by that. So
no, it's exactly what I was saying at the up top of the idea that we are in this sort of late stage capitalism idea. The movie opens essentially in the equivalent of like the 50s, the 60s, this golden age, the nuclear family. We're like, we're sitting here having a cookout with the one son, one daughter, two dogs. Like it is absolutely what was promised to them. And then you see how the company got bought out by a bunch of Americans who are stripping it for profits. And it's like, yep, that's what we do now. That's what the entire culture is.
Yeah, I mean, they're even talking about how he got an award, and they gave him this eel as a prize for being like Worker of the Year or whatever it was.
There was a line in there that I thought implied that the eel was like the signifier of you're about to be laid off. Where like as he's trying to plead with the American new owners, like, we don't fire us, we're doing whatever. Some older guy steps up and he's like, "You got the eel, huh?" And I'm like, is that the implication? Like everyone got eel and it wasn't actually all that special for him?
Yeah, I think obviously he didn't know it was a signal that he was about to get cut. I think that he actually just thought it was a nice, like, job well done, have some complimentary eel. But that opening scene sets up so much stuff about the family. It sets up the daughter's into music. It sets up that the wife likes to play tennis. It sets up that they've been taking dancing lessons so they can do this dance party together. And they're flirting with each other and like not in front of the kids, like all these little happy moments. It's all just a bundle of joy. And then the funny thing is that when he goes to work, and we cut slightly ahead sometime, he's wanting to talk to the Americans because he wants to argue that because they've asked him to cut like 25% of the workforce. And he wants to go and argue and say, no, that we shouldn't cut these people. They're dedicated to their jobs. Like, this guy's been here longer than I have, and he trained me, my craft. This young guy, like, basically came of age working here. Like, they all belong here. This is a family, and so on and so on. And then he ends up getting fired himself, and that's kind of, that's it. And, it's like, I'll have another job within 3 months. Cut to 13 months later, still unemployed. Well, he has like a crappy like job at a supermarket that he quickly loses, but
yeah, I do want to say that there's an interstitial there after he loses the job before the cut where he's in some sort of like a therapy session, like for a bunch of people who are all unemployed, and they're just doing like a coaching session saying like, it's essentially the masculinity club thing from Fight Club, where it's like, you're not less of a man, you're still the breadwinner, you can still do this.
Yeah, I almost got the vibe though this was like something that the company put on for them on their way out the door. Like this is like, because this spokesperson with a microphone, she's got the Britney Spears microphone like wearing on her head, and she's like, you are this, you are that, tap your head because this will unlock all those work genes or some bullshit like that.
I mean, I appreciate the visual here of as he's doing the tapping and all that, it just zooms into his little throbbing vein in his forehead, just like, and you're like, oh, this is not going to end well for him.
Not at all. So it's like 13 months later, it's like they were living as they did because they thought, it'll only take him a few months to get a job and his severance will cover till then. But some time has passed, money's tighter, the wife's going to go back to having a part-time job. Luckily, she does have a trained profession that she can kind of fall into, which is that she's a oral hygienist. She goes to work at a dentist part-time. And it's like, okay, all right. Which also kind of comes up around the same time we start seeing him hold his face, like, every so often. It's like, wait, you got toothache, my man?
Yep.
What's going on there?
And again, symbolically, I feel like that's the idea of, like, the wife could help him with this, but he is so steadfast in the idea of, like, no, this is not something I want you to have to work on. This is my thing.
Yeah, I think there's that, but I also think it's, in a broader sense, the idea of, because as someone who, when I was younger, did have some toothache and did not go to the dentist like I should have, right? Lessons were learned, and David's nodding his head to agree that he's also done the same.
What do you mean did? I'm doing.
It's this idea that you've got a problem, but you don't think you can actually solve it, so you just let it keep getting worse. And that's what the toothache is here, at least up front on surface level anyway, for me, is like, it just keeps getting worse. He doesn't address what the problem is. He just keeps plowing through as if it'll magically fix itself at some point.
Yeah. He's just, it's something that is just festering in his head. And I mean, it's a broader symbolic of everything going on, because when it is eventually dealt with, it's dealt with in the most extreme way possible, which is also symbolic of how he deals with the rest of his problems.
Yes. So there's so much to talk about once we get into all this, but
So just real quick, before the wife goes off and announces, like, all that stuff she's doing, he is working at the grocery store or whatever, like a box store, and is called up by his friend saying, hey, that interview that I was going to get you for, like, the end of day today, you're going to have to come in now because he's leaving early. And so he's forced to...
Well, notably, it's another paper company, so it's basically the same sort of position he had before. So Dunder Mifflin Korea is calling and saying, hey, you can have an interview, but it has to be today by this time. And he goes to, we don't even get this conversation, we just see the fallout of it, is that he's clearly asked his employer, can I leave at this time because I've got an interview? If he told, assuming he told him the truth, and he just gets fired on the spot, and he has to hand over his, like, work overalls, and he's walking away in his boxer shorts and his vest.
Which I feel like is a little bit cruel. I feel like you should at least be allowed to change to your normal clothes, but whatever.
I feel like there's some rules again, maybe not in Korea, but I feel like there should be rules against forcing the worker to strip before they leave in disgrace.
Yeah. But no, he goes to the interview, and it just doesn't go well. Like, he's not providing the proper answers here. They don't seem to be interested, and he ends up not getting the job, and now he's left with nothing.
Yeah, the big thing that I was getting from this was that he says he had that previous job, or he was at that same company at least for 25 years. He basically went there very young, went up through the ranks. So he's not had a job interview in at least 25 years, is what it sounds like. So he doesn't know how to do it. He's nervous, his legs shaking, he's nursing the sore tooth. He's just, every single little thing that could be going wrong in his head is making him just say the worst things every question they ask.
Yeah. I mean, it also, I got the vibe because he was told by his friend, you should have an answer to the question, like, what's your biggest weakness? That's a big thing here with the interview. We want you to have that on standby. And he has such trouble with it. He has no idea what he's supposed to say. He's, like, asking his wife about it. And I feel like the whole interview with that in mind is he can't stop talking himself up, where it feels like they're kind of looking for someone who's going to be a bit more subservient and a bit more like, we don't care how good you are. We just, like, want to know that you're going to follow orders and do what's needed to be done here.
Yeah, my biggest weakness is that I just win too much. I'm just too successful. That's my problem.
That's basically what he says, because they say, like, all right, what's your biggest, can you tell us what your biggest weakness is? And he goes, no. And they're like, what? And he's like, that's saying no. That's I can't say no. Ha 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 ha. And then smash cut. Nope, didn't get the job.
Yeah, and it felt like this was, and this obviously leads to the rest of the plot, but this idea that all the same people are competing for the same few paper jobs because, you know, there's these people in these industries, they want to have the same type of role. and it's getting harder and harder. It was making me think a little bit of the video game industry, because the video game industry keeps laying people out, like closing development studios. So there's like thousands of developers all looking for jobs in the same pool, and it's actually like seemingly quite cutthroat because,
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's this whole thing.
Yeah, no, I feel like I've seen, I keep racking my head over it. I feel like I've seen this exact same sort of plot played more up for a comedy angle, just trying to screw the other people and like get out in front of them rather than murder. But I cannot for the life of me remember what movie I'm thinking of here.
Yeah, but he gets, this is after this, they have the dinner scene where the wife says, well, we have to cut this and that, no Netflix anymore, and you just hear the son like load up a Netflix thing because I better watch something while I've got it. It's like,
it literally plays the sound effect of ba-bum.
Yeah, as he's walking away, and it's like, okay, I'm not going to do tennis anymore, I'm not going to do this anymore. And it's notably when he's calling her after the interview didn't go so hot, I think, where she's at her tennis practice. And like she gets notably kind of upset, he's upset, it's a whole thing, and the younger guy comes. We don't know he's the dentist yet, but this younger tennis player comes over to kind of console her, and immediately you're like, who are you? Especially since in the opening scene when he bought her the dance shoes, when Mansu bought her the dance shoes, she says, "Oh, you're not supposed to buy shoes to your lover." Which is a weird thing to call your husband in front of the kids, but the kids are like, well, why is that, Mum? Yeah. And she's like, well, because she might run away in them. That means your dad's very confident. And I'm like, okay, either she's definitely running away from him before the end of this movie, or his confidence is taking such a beating. And more the latter, but still. yeah,
but they play with the idea of the former as well. They play with this idea.
Play with it, yeah.
Especially as we get through other people, and like we said, the reflections of how he sees himself in the other contestants for these roles that he's going for. One of them has a wife cheating on him, and immediately that's just like, well, I see so much of myself in this guy. Guess I need to suspect my wife now.
Yeah, it becomes a whole big thing, but yeah, there's so many little things that become like running threads throughout that's introduced with the family. Like the the whole dancing, the dentist, and like that side of things. The daughter's cello becomes a recurring thing where it's like, okay, that's the one thing we're still going to pay for is her cello lessons because it's actually kind of important. She's very good at it. But then it's like, oh, like your daughter's like so good at the cello that I can't teach her anymore. She needs like a grandmaster cello player to teach her, and he's going to cost way more than me. Plus, also, she's on a cheap cello. She needs a pristine, super expensive cello.
Initially they're talking about, because this all happens after they're downsizing. Like they say they need to move to an apartment and all this sort of stuff. I thought that this was the cello teacher basically trying to be polite and saying like, yeah, I'm not teaching her because she's so good, when in reality it's like, you can't afford me anymore, and I'm trying to make this as painless as both. But then over the course of the movie they make very clear like, no, she's actually like a prodigy. She's actually fantastic at the cello. And I'm like, oh, okay. Another part of the character is that she never plays in front of her parents, and as such, from an audience perspective, we never get to see her play. So from that I was like, can she? Is she actually good at it? Until
obviously one prominent scene at the very end when you finally get to hear her, and the mother finally gets to hear her play. Like all that stuff is just sprinkled throughout and neatly builds, and like it always seems to like have like a knock-on effect from whatever he's just done in the plot. So if he's just witnessed something, then it kind of feeds into how he interacts with these other elements. And then the wife and the dentist are the big one, obviously, but there's more throughout. So he goes begging for a job at another paper company, basically on his knees, and I wouldn't say they outright mock him. They're not like super mean or anything, but it's kind of like, no, this is kind of sad. Like, don't do this in the bathroom. Like, here's a little bit of money. Go and get a drink across the street, but there's nothing here for you today. Maybe try this other paper company, blah, blah, blah. And this is actually the first hint we get that he's an alcoholic, because when he's at the bar, I thought the wife was just mad because they do a video call, and I thought she was just mad because you might be looking for a job while you're sitting in a bar. But then he shows, oh no, I'm just drinking like apple juice or whatever, and she's like, oh okay. He's like, don't you trust me? And she's like, yeah, of course I trust you, of course, yeah. With
that significant pause.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, that's hinting to something, and I actually really like the big scene later that really comes up in their big confrontation scene. But But that was actually one of the things, though, that I really liked about the first half of the movie, though, is that despite this little moment, like when we see them at home again, and even though things are kind of rough, they're still very flirty. They're still kind of dancing and reminiscing. And actually, there's a scene here around this part, because I think it's before he goes off the deep end with all the stuff that he's trying to do, where she's basically like, what about maybe not a paper company? And actually, that's a bit later, because it's after the other guy's already turned that down. Kill. That's right. But regardless, there's that scene where they're dancing, and it's still quite pleasant, and she's just like, what about something other than like a paper company? Like, you could do something else, like anything.
Yep. And he's, again, no other choice. He's too locked in. He especially at that point, because once he does his first kill, or once, the kill happens.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, technically the first one is not his.
Yeah. But once it happens, he basically locks into this idea of like, if I don't keep going with my plan, all of this insanity and murder would have been for nothing.
Yes.
So I just have to keep going.
The sunk cost fallacy, which is effectively is what it is in the first place. It's this sunk cost. I have devoted 25 years to the paper business. I need to stay in the paper business.
Therefore must continue. It's awful. Just a few other tiny little things here is they have 2 dogs that they have to give up because they can't afford to feed them.
Oh, because at the end of the dinner scene, and the mum's like, okay, also there's more, here's the bad news, and the kids are like, wait, giving up like all of our extracurricular stuff, giving up Netflix, giving up this stuff, that wasn't the bad news. What's the bad news? It's like, well, we have too many mouths to feed. Smash cut to the dog's been taken away by the grandparents. And I'm like, to be fair, it's the grandparents. It's not like they're going to a kennel or something. Like,
But no, the framing of the scene, the dogs aren't visible. So it's when they say too many mouths to feed, and then it cuts to the kids, you're like, all right, you with the cello, get on a bus.
Yeah, you're not pulling your weight. Go make some money with your cello playing. It's about time. But
and then they're going to sell their house. They're going to move into an apartment, and they have an offer from just this absolute dick who I guess lives nearby, who just wants to like buy up the property and expand his own yard. Yeah,
their son's friends with the main character's son, so that's a thing. Which is also mentioned here is we do find out a little bit here or there throughout that the son is not actually his. They got together when he was like 1 or 2. Yes. Which is something that comes up occasionally.
She was a divorced single mom, and he put a ring on it.
Yes. The guy is kind of an asshole, the one who's maybe buying the house. Now, they never actually move out of the house, because all of this takes place now in a pretty short span of time, and then by the time we get to the end of the movie, things have changed. Yeah. So we never actually leave the interesting house and its architecture, which is cool. Although it does look a lot noticeably more like run down and grim as the movie goes on. Like, it's not this beautiful bright, like dead tree now, dead leaves and all that. It's just autumn basically, but the color difference just makes such a difference in the way it looks overall.
Yeah, the intro scene is so like blown out, golden hour, like everything is perfect. As soon as he loses his job, you lose that sheen, you lose that extra sparkle. But as the movie progresses, it just gets colder and colder and colder until we're left at the end, and it's like everything's gray and wet and awful.
And I want to really put across here that the wife, well, you might think, oh, she's going to start having doubts and wanting to leave him and so on. She is so supportive. She is so like, hey, we need to cut back, but you know what? Like, this is just a logical choice to make. I'm in this with you. You can do this. And even when he insists that he's not going to look for a different type of job, he needs a paper job. She's like, okay, we'll get through it. Like, she's a trooper, right? And it's not that she does have one little no other choice moment later on, which we'll get to, but like she, for the most part, is an absolute like just gem of a wife who puts up with all of this crap. This is actually very refreshing. And if anything, depending on where the plot goes, if he does end up going so far and it ruins her life, I'm actually going to sympathize with her so much because she's done nothing wrong.
Oh yeah. No, that's absolutely one of the things that I feel like, making a comparison to Breaking Bad, the idea that it's him taking extraordinary measures to try to care for the family, even if it's detrimental to the family itself. The one thing in that is that, Skylar in Breaking Bad always felt like she did have like some level of resentment, especially once things started really getting bad there. She has, like, the wife in this has nothing. There is absolutely nothing but just pure love and like, oh, we can get through this. We can do whatever we need to. Even when they're at their worst and they are like having an actual honest to God fight with each other, it is more so of just stating their case and like allowing the other person to get their insecurities out and then moving forward afterwards.
Yeah, she rarely gets angry at him for a couple of things in the middle, but it doesn't, like you say, it never becomes this weird like threat of, oh, I'm going to take the kids and leave or whatever. There's never even a sense of like, oh, we're throwing in the towel and we're not going to try anymore. So yeah. It's actually, again, like I say, it's kind of refreshing actually, because it would just be the obvious thing that most scripts would do, I think. So fair play. Anyway, to get to the main thrusting plot of the movie though, is basically what the guy that he was begging to in the bathroom, right? He works at this company that apparently has hit the Japanese market, right? So this paper company is doing well because Japan's buying all their paper. Moon Paper, I think, was the name of the company, and this guy has an Instagram page, so he's a bit of a influencer as well as like a manager at this paper company. So basically, Mansu's like watching all of his stuff. He's and again, like, even the wife's noticing and kind of snuggling up to him when they're watching it on the phone together, and like she's giving him pep talks and all that. He kind of just goes and follows him, right? And it's not even like he's made a choice of what he's going to do, but there is kind of this idea that kind of brews of like, well, I think someone says something about him being struck by lightning. I think he's talking to his wife about, oh, if he got struck by lightning, like there'd be a job opening. And he's following him. And again, this is a great use of the camera here with there's this sort of steep staircase next to this little like building, right? It's in between a couple of buildings, and the guy he's following like goes in the bottom and he's on the phone. And when Mansu realizes he's there and he kind of doubles back up the stairs and we get this big wide shot, we see him run up the stairs, and then a few seconds later, after he goes out of frame, we see him on the roof of this little building. So you get this good sense of geography. Even if they tricked it a little bit by like having a sort of half cut somewhere where you couldn't see it because the camera's static, doesn't matter. It looked great. And then you just see him kind of like eye up the plant pots, and he's kind of like holding it over there. He's like, oh, I can make it look as an accident here. Like a plant pot just fell off the edge of the roof and just landed on his head. And he's like, oh, this one's too small. And he picks up a bigger one. No,
I really want to call out that moment though, because you just cut down low angle shot aimed up at the roof where you see the guy on the phone, and the pot just dangles over the edge, and you see him like, and he's like closing his eyes, looking away. And then he's like, shaking his head, he's like, oh my god, and he sets it back down, and you're like, he's come to his senses. And then he grabs a bigger pot, and he's like, oh, that wouldn't have killed him, I gotta actually kill him.
And then he eventually gets like a really, really big one, and he's like, and it's like the plant pot's dripping in his head, because obviously it's got water in it, so it's starting to drip on him. And then eventually you just hear this old lady from behind being like, what, is this weightlifting? Do you doing with my plant pots? What are you doing?
What are you doing up here? It seems like it's a shared building, so like anyone can come up to this roof, so she doesn't think anything of the fact of like some rando is here. But she's just making conversation, just like, hey, it's pretty nice to hang out up here. Meanwhile, he's like, okay, all of a sudden brain blast. If I kill him now, someone else will replace him. In order to make this work, I would need to kill off everyone else in the waiting list first and then kill him.
Yeah, it's like, at the very least, it's not guaranteed he'll get the job. So his whole thing is that he puts in like a fake news ad, right, for a new paper company called Red Chili Papers. He buys a chili bonsai tree so that he can like take a photo with it and like sort of pretend that he's doing all it and whatever. So the idea is that he's made this fake ad, and he's got like a burner phone as the fake phone number, so that he can basically just get all the people who would apply for his job to send their resumes to him with photographs.
He just mirrors the exact listing of this other guy's job and says like, you got to know Japanese because we're in the Japanese market. You got to have X years of paper experience, blah, blah, blah. And we cut to the first guy who reads the ad in the paper and is just inspired to change his whole life in order to try to get this job.
And we see that he's kind of a drunken fool. His wife's yelling at him for being drunk and just at home all the time and all that. So his life's kind of miserable, and he sees the ad and he perks up. He's like, finally, this is the one. He's like Janine from Ghostbusters, we got one, and ringing the bell. And I love that. So you see him get all the resumes, and he's got like 5 of them, and he's sort of like trying to grade them. He's like, okay, who's the best candidate on the paper, right? Who are all the ones that are above my on paper resume?
Well, you say he's got 5 of them. He's got like 50 of them, and he narrows it down to these are the 5 who are like top running.
Yeah, well, the point is though, he's got 5 that are relevant to his, like, I think he's ruled out the other 40 or whatever as like, just, I didn't have a chance. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but
I'm better than them, no doubt.
Right, but these 5, these might be trouble, and he's kind of like comparing, and there's one that he puts below him, but then he looks at his resume again. He's like, oh, he had 3 years of like working in Japan. Oh, that sounds quite good. No, he's above me again. Okay, these are the 3 that I need to kill, and that's the premise of the movie. That's like him trying to execute this plan, and it's a bumpy ride.
Just to correct one thing, it is 2. He's got 2 people he needs to kill, and then there's the one guy who actually currently holds the job.
Sorry, yeah, okay, but there's three murders to do. Yes. So yeah, and we spend, like, you can almost like sort of chapter the movie of like, okay, this next half hour is like the plotting, the planning, the surveillance, the execution or the failed execution, and all the weird ins and outs of what this first guy, this older guy, who's the alcoholic, who's got the angry wife living with him.
Yep.
So,
and I didn't pick this up at first because we don't know anything about this guy's life or whatever. But the very first time that he sneaks up to the house, he's got some binoculars and all that. You see this younger guy sneaking out of the house.
Yes.
And my thought process is like, oh, okay, if we're doing this thing of like mirroring where he sees himself in somebody's, maybe this is the guy's like oldest son or something like that, because he has a teenage son as well. No. This is the guy who's sleeping with his wife.
Yep.
Find that out later.
Yeah, that's a tease there, and then it comes back around because there's a whole thing where he's sort of watching them, and there's a whole comical bit where he's like spying on him, and he's got his guns. He's got this old gun from his grandfather who was like in Vietnam, like so it's this old North Korean pistol. And he's actually bought like a toy pistol that he's painted to look at the real one, and he's put that in the display so the wife thinks the gun's still there, and he's taken the real one to go and commit some murders with.
It's not the smartest plan, but it's smarter than anyone would have thought about. I would have just taken the whole thing down, being like, oh yeah, I knocked it over and the glass broke. Oh well.
What's so funny is that it never occurred to me he was going to do that. I thought when I saw him with the like putting the model together, I thought he was just going to threaten people with a model gun and then do something else to them or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that could have been the very first step of just being like, oh, you're gonna retract your application to this job, and then I won't kill you.
You're done with the paper business.
Go into the cafe, the music cafe.
Because that's the thing. He's like in the forest. He's going to kill this guy, but his wife shows up for this like sort of shared hike, and they end up having like a bit of a picnic, and he ends up just watching them, and this is where they have their big conversation, and where she's like, "Hey, why don't you just do something other than the stupid paper company? Like, you're going to be retiring in like 6-7 years anyway. Just do something else. You love music. Do a music cafe."
Yeah, and he responds where he's just like, oh, you paper my whole life, like all this other stuff. I live in the past. I've got vinyls. I got all this other stuff here. And then he quickly comes to the realization of like, of course they wouldn't call me back. They would send a letter. They're a paper company, God damn it. And then he like runs off to the mailbox, and the wife's left like super upset, super pissed off. And you, again, with the reflections, but like just beforehand, you get this idea of he's so obsessed, he's so myopic in this idea of he wants to get this particular job that he doesn't notice that his wife is actively cheating on him, and also is like trying to make this work, is trying to get him actually up into like a career, and he's just too blind to see it.
Yeah, because it's not that this justifies the cheating per se, but it's not like she's trying to run away with someone else and like end the marriage. She's wanting to get him back on his feet, and would the cheating stop after that? I don't know, maybe not. It's hard to say. But
yeah, but at the very least, she wants what's best for him. She's not just saying like, yeah, well, to stay unemployed, all the better.
But unfortunately for Mansu, he gets bit by a snake and ends up sort of falling down like behind her, and we get this absurd scene where she's like, I know what to do, and she cuts into his leg, and like, I swear she has her mouth on his ankle and is sucking out the supposed venom for like, and to the point where Miri calls Mansu for a video call in the middle of this, and he's talking to her on the video call whilst this other woman's sucking on his leg. It's such a bizarre, weird, quirky scene.
There is a period in this movie where Miri is like, who's the other woman?
Yeah,
like what? Yeah. Who is this other woman that's going on here? She doesn't know anything about the blood-sucking venom thing here at all. Just his behavior has led to the other woman. But this sequence here specifically, where he pulls out the video phone and says, I've just been bit by a snake. It might be poisonous. I gotta go. Click. I'm just like, yeah, that's suspicious.
Yeah.
There's no way you're not getting out of that one.
Well, it's because he's driving weird places. Because he's maybe just be looking for a job. He's maybe going to job interviews, and he's like, he's driving all these miles. He's coming home with dirt on his, stuff. Which is why after this time, when he goes back, he takes like a fisherman's like overalls and welly boots, so that he's like, one for the snakes, but also I guess any blood spatter would be good for these as well. But.
He goes over the top in terms of getting prepared when he actually plans on doing this.
Yes. So we get this whole... Actually, there's two sequences, because there's a really fun sequence before we actually get to the kill sequence, where he comes to the house and he looks in the window and he sees the wife having sex with the younger man. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, oh, well, he's not there. I'll just leave. And when he's driving home or wherever he's going, he passes by the potential victim driving back to his house, and he like cares enough that he swerves the car and goes back to a vantage point and tries to call pretending to be like the fake paper company, the chili paper company. He's like, hey, Mr. So-and-so, we've got an interview before 5 o'clock. If you leave right now. He's basically trying to stop this guy from discovering that his wife's cheating, which I thought was a very interesting character trait for a main character. Because in theory, why should he care? Why should he care that this man's wife's cheating on him if it isn't for the fact that he sees a little of himself in him and wants to protect him from this pain?
And that's what it is. It is absolutely that idea of like, this guy was a career paperman. He's out of a job. He just wants all that. Yes, I'm going to kill him, but there's no reason that I need to break his heart before then. Yeah. Like, if I can spare him of that, then at least maybe he can die happy.
And like he basically, it works. He convinces him to leave, but at the last second he's like, oh no, I'm going to go back in and get changed and I'll leave right after that. And he's like, no. But yeah, the phone's already hung up, and we just see a wide shot where he goes in the house. We wait for a few moments, and then we see him just kind of walk back outside and like fall to the ground and start kind of rolling about, yelling and kicking and whatever else.
Yeah. He goes through at least 3 of the stages of grief, all just like boom, boom, boom. It ends with him. Well, he tries to call back the job, basically saying like, hey, I didn't get a text for the address that you said you would send. Where's the text? Obviously, Mansu doesn't pick up. And then he just tries to get on the phone with one of his friends or buddies saying like, hey, I need to go out for a drink. Like, I don't know where my wife is. ... sob.
Yeah, I almost thought, because it was darkly funny, a lot of this, I almost thought he was going to inadvertently drive him to killing himself. Like, I thought he might do that, and then it's like, well, I guess that kind of worked out in my favor. That's one down.
Yeah. Wipe my hands clean of that.
Now, I think it's after this that he goes to pick up the wife and daughter, and they're waiting at the dentist, and so the dentist is there, and he pulls up and he looks like a bad husband because he's late and he's been eating chicken, so he's got like grease on the side of his face that the wife notices, and he immediately notices how young the dentist is and is like, and he's like, doesn't want to talk to him, and he's like, no, I don't have toothache, go away, leave me alone. Like, the wife's obviously told him that, and just, it's all very weird and suspicious. The wife's like clearing up his mess, and it's all very awkward, but you can tell that his senses of like being suspicious and like jealous are all heightened because of what he just saw with the other guy.
Yeah, it doubles down. It makes it, even after that thing where he sees this guy being heartbroken, and theoretically there should be this level where he feels bad. He feels this like, oh, this guy's life has already been ruined. Like, should I really step in there? Having this younger dentist talking about his problems, once again talking about the idea that he has this toothache, which is deeply symbolic for other things. He's like, nope, I'm going to go do it tomorrow. If not, like later today, I'm going to go out and I'm going to take care of this.
Yeah, it's almost like I have control over this. It'll make me feel powerful, so I'm going to go do it because I can do something about that. Also, I love there's a line when they're driving away where he just says, "Oh, quite the age difference," and the wife rightly goes, "With who?" Like, what? No one talks about an age difference between you and your employer. That's weird.
He literally says age gap, and it's like...
Yeah, age gap, that's right.
I'm pretty sure that's only used in very specific communities, my man, but whatever.
Yeah, you only say that when you're talking about two people who are a couple or sexually active together, like if there's a weird age gap. So she's rightfully confused, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So...
But yeah, then the next day, he goes back. We see that the man is... completely depressed. He's just blaring his vinyls at like top volume, and Man-soo manages to sneak in with the gun, and he's planning on killing him then and there.
Yeah. So I love this sequence, right? Because obviously he sees him standing there with the gun. Well, actually, he sees him standing there with like a mitt on, and then it turns out there's like 4 mitts in a row because he takes off a mitt, there's another mitt, and there's another mitt, and then eventually there's a gun wrapped in plastic to his hand for some reason. But they basically start yelling at each other with the music playing, but you can't hear it, to the point where there's Korean subtitles for the Koreans because you can't make out a word that they're saying. And it's like, okay, but the wife kind of notices like him coming in and sees him and like ends up sneaking, and we actually get this fun kind of like thing where she's the one sneaking up behind him with something over his head, like the plant pot. Notably, the paper award that the main character Man-soo also has. They both have the same, I think it was a pulp award. Yeah,
it's like Pope Man of the Year or something like that.
Something like that. So again, the parallels are off the charts. But
no, and this entire time he's like accusing this guy of like, you're the one that my wife has been cheating on, because I guess he didn't get a good look of the younger guy's face. He assumes that this person with the gun is him coming in to claim his wife.
He's assuming Man-soo is the one that his wife cheated on. Yeah. So they're yelling at each other. The wife comes in and hits him. And despite the fact that the wife's technically fighting on the same side as the husband, it kind of becomes this weird three-way fight for the gun, where they're all crawling beside each other and trying to get to it.
Well, it's during the point where Man-soo is threatening the guy, he says, like, why couldn't you have just gotten another job? Why do you have to work in the paper thing? And the wife's standing behind, and as she's about to hit Man-soo over the head, she stops and she's like, yeah.
The Hitman's making some points. Yeah, the Hitman's got some good, valid points. I'm agreeing with him.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's when it becomes a three-way thing, is once she finally steps up and is just like, yeah, why didn't you do that? And Man-soo's like, wait, what? What are you doing here? And he accidentally fires the gun into the guy's shoulder.
Yeah, so fired the gun, but not killed him by any stretch.
Right.
And it's when actually when the gun eventually ends up in the wife's hands, and she's a bit clumsy with it at first, but she's like chasing him out, and like he's dodging gunshots, but then he realizes that after the guns went off when he's outside, I've not been hit, and he looks back and he sees that the husband's lying on the ground. The wife has shot her husband, and which almost made me think, are all these going to end up with not him having to do the murder himself? Is that going to be the running joke? It isn't, but yeah.
But this sets up future stuff as well. But no, the wife is basically just like, the guy's on the ground dying, and he's just like, oh, it's not my fault that I'm unemployed. And she's like, that's not the problem. The problem is how you've been dealing with it. You've been making my life a living hell with your choices.
Yeah, but I had no other choice. No, I don't think he says it in that scene, but he definitely said it when he was blubbering, listening to his vinyls at one point.
Yep.
Like I said, every character pretty much says it at one point, except maybe the wife, actually. Miri, I don't think, ever says the phrase exactly.
Well, I mean, she also represents the idea of course, there's always another choice. Like, you don't have to go down this path.
Yeah. So, it's a good thing, but he realizes... So, he has a whole... Actually, I'm forgetting the sequence of events here. Does he have to go back and catch them burying the... Because so basically the wife and her lover bury the husband's body, but he goes back to dig it up so that he can get his gun and his everything he left behind, because he doesn't want evidence in the grave.
I mean, yes, that happens, but the very first thing that happens is as he's driving home, he sees he has 10 missed calls from his wife. That's
what I was asking, was if that was first or after that.
Yeah, that's first.
Because basically it's that the party they were supposed to go to in costume and do this dance is happening, and he realizes that it's that night. Even the kids aren't being very helpful. They don't have a lot of useful information. But eventually he's like, wait, did mum leave a costume for me? So the whole thing here, you can see it coming a mile off, is he's running late. He's almost there, but the wife is standing on her own, and the young dentist, who's also in costume, comes up and says, you spent time learning this dance. You should show it off. So they start having their sexy dance in front of everyone on the dance floor. And Mansu comes in and sees it. And notably, the wife looks over and sees him and keeps dancing. It's kind of like almost like, you know what? No, you can stew in this a little bit. You've been kind of failing as a husband recently.
This is where the writing of the daughter is really clever, because of course she echoes things that she hears. And when he's on the phone with the kids, the daughter says, Mansu's going to regret this, or your father's going to regret this, or something like that. So you can tell from his perspective, he's like, oh God, that's what she said verbatim, isn't it?
Yeah. He knows his daughter well enough to know that was just a direct quote. So, you know, he goes home. He walks closer to them, but chooses not to actually, like, interact. He just kind of turns around and leaves, which the wife notices as well, and does seem like, oh, that was a bit of a sad moment for her, that he didn't fight for her or anything like that. So this leads to arguably one of the best scenes of the movie, which is, she goes home and he's just sitting there on his own, and he accuses her of having sex with the dentist in the car. He's like, oh, did you screw him in the car?
Yeah. He does the thing where he's sitting in the dark, and then like as soon as she sits down, he says something, and she like jumps, because it's like, Jesus, how long have you been there?
But he tries to get her panties off, because he's like, I'll know if you've had sex. I'll be able to tell. And it leads to one of my favorite little moments in the whole movie, is after, like, she kind of kicks him away, right, and it stops being physical. And she kind of takes them off herself and just throws them at him, and he sniffs them, and he's like, oh, okay, I guess not. And then she walks over to him and smells his breath to check if he's been drinking. And I love the duality of that. I love him smelling to see if she's been unfaithful, and then her smelling to see if he's been drinking. When she makes it clear in this scene that you're not drinking again, are you? Because it's been 9 years of like sobriety. It's been happiness. We got over that, we got through that, and it was a big thing. I felt like this scene, which started off feeling like, oh, is this going to be the big scene where it all falls apart, actually ended up being kind of like, okay, it wasn't a happy scene. It was definitely a scene where they were both challenged, but it doesn't feel like the marriage is falling apart by the end. And I thought that was actually quite it felt like it didn't go in the direction that I think a more obvious script would have went. It felt like, no, they've been through challenges before, they've overcome them, they're in kind of a rough spot right now, and it definitely feels that way, where there's definitely been some lies being told to each other, but at the same time, them sort of sort of visiting what they've went through in the past, and some other things come up here, like the fact that he was getting his degree online when he was working, so he never had time to spend with her. That's another big theme of this movie, is like not having time for your personal life because you're too devoted to your job. That's what I was saying, the obsession and what you're willing to sacrifice for it.
No, I agree. I really appreciate this scene of the emotions to come out. It definitely feels like it's coming out of both of them, not just like his, and I appreciate the points they make as well, where it's during the dance sequence, the costumes and all that, she's dressed up as a Native American. He's in some sort of military garb or something like that. But the dentist is also dressed up as a Native American.
Yeah.
And he's like all of this was planned. You've been cheating on me for a while now. Why else would you have these shared costumes? And then she makes the point of like, I'm supposed to be Pocahontas. You're supposed to be John Smith. Like, that is still a couple's costume. That's what it's supposed to be. But when I mentioned my costume at the office, at the dental office, they all said, that sounds fun. Let's just make it a group thing. And that's why we were both dressed as Native Americans. Like, it's this idea that, again, he's gotten this in his head. This is how it has to be. And he's not able to see these possibilities that are outside of that.
Another detail I like there is that the reason why they were dressing as these characters is because it's their daughter's favorite movie, and they've had to watch it numerous times with her. I like that linked back into like a very innocent family thing. It's like, oh, this is you're dressed like him, like you're both dressed as a pair because you're cheating on me. No, we had a couple's costume that came from the fact that our daughter, who we love very much, likes these characters. That's why we did this. So the fact that he like forgot that and didn't understand that that's what it was because the jealousy and whatever got in the way instead, just it was very enlightening, I think, where it should be a wake-up call. It isn't.
And this is also where she accuses him of like, look, you're also very attractive, like perhaps you also have been cheating on me or whatever else. And he doesn't directly deny it, but that's only because he doesn't have an explanation for like all the things she points out of like, you know, you've been out in the woods and doing stuff like that. You've gotten all these miles on your car that are significantly more than just driving to job interviews. Like, and yeah, also points out the idea of like, you have been lying. Like, I've been able to see that this whole time. So what is it that's happening? And he's just like, I've been working hard for this family and you just need to trust me on that.
Oh yeah, he can't say shit. That's the funny thing about this, is that he feels all this jealousy and like paranoia, and he's the one that's been lying, and he's almost too busy with what he's lying about. That's where all this paranoia is grown from. She actually has legitimate reasons to be concerned and be like, hey, why are some of these job interviews happening in the dead of night? This feels important. Like, what's happening?
Yep, absolutely. But no, pretty much the moment that scene wraps up, where it seems as though, whether by his own choice or not, he's spending the night out in his greenhouse and the wife is going to bed alone. We just cut to the second kill. We cut to the second guy now.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I would like to point out, though, that I feel like this scene is a turning point in the movie, where I think, well, the wife is very much a character. Miri is a character up until this point. I think after this scene, it kind of makes her, like, it's almost like up until this point, we were seeing her purely as the wife from his lens. Like, this idea of we're seeing her and we've got this suspicion that she's up to something with a dentist, and so on and so on. But because this scene sort of like actually gets out the real character, from this point on, I feel like she is her own character. Not necessarily equal to the main character, because he still gets more screen time, of course, but but in the sense that it feels like, no, we're seeing her actually figure things out, make her own decisions, make her own mistakes, even that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's I agree with you in that this is the turning point for it, but we do go basically this entire second kill before we see her again, before she has anything to do. And that's where it feels like she's finally made the decision of, I don't think my husband is up to dealing with our home life and family problems. I don't think I can rely on him here. So I'm forced to make these bigger choices in spite of him, like without his input or anything else.
Yeah. A second guy works at a shoe store currently. And getting a little surveillance, but not as much this time. He kind of quickly talks to him and brings up that his daughter plays cello, has got a recital coming up, and he can't afford anything else. He even kind of admits, oh yeah, I can recognize an unemployed guy, which I thought was a weird line because he's literally at a job right now, but I know what he means. Like, oh, this is not where you're supposed to be. You have a more specific purpose in life.
You're working the minimum wage job when you should have a career job.
But he's like, hey, you know, I want to get her these shoes for a recital, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, you know, I'll stay home late and blah. I did like the detail that effectively the whole plan here was that he wouldn't show up for this like appointment to come and get shoes. But he knew from the resume that this guy was good with machines and would probably offer to help fix his car. So it was all a bit of a setup to get him to like drive past them.
This sequence does a lot of subterfuge with even the audience, where you think like, oh, okay, he's got this guy's job. He's going to try to kill him, and like, however this is going to work out. But you can tell now because he's gone through this first one now, he's seen how bad it can go. He's got this deeper insight. He knows exactly what he's going to say, how he's going to do it. And you think the initial plan is he says, I got to go pick up my daughter from her cello thing, and I still want to buy these shoes from you, but like, you won't get the commission if I don't buy it from you. And he's like, oh, well, I'm closing up shop at 7. He's like, it won't be done by 7. It's like, then I'll stay until 8, and I have to clean up late anyway. So you get this idea of, oh, he's going to get this guy alone in the shop when it's supposed to be closed and kill him there. But then we see the entire extra plan on top of it of he parks in the route that he knows this guy is going to have to drive home, and pretends that his car is broken down, and that's how he's going to end up getting him alone. And it's a lot more thought out and a lot more intelligent of, oh, this guy knows what he's doing now.
Yeah, I like the idea that, and part of it's the experience of going to the first one, but I think a big part of it is that after the confrontation with his wife, he feels more determined. It's almost like he's been challenged. Not that the wife specifically challenged him, because again, I think interprets it a little bit differently than it actually is. But this idea of it provokes his like, oh, I need to like be a man, I need to be a husband, I need to like provide. And at this point in the story, he's convinced himself that providing means taking out the competition so he can get the paper job that he wants. So he is able to do it here. Admittedly, the guy does try to run when he pulls out the gun, but very quickly shoots him in the back. It doesn't last that long.
Yeah. He does show that he still has the moral conscience of, yes, he thinks that he needs to kill this guy, but he can't look him in the face while it's happening. Like, he has to cover up the guy's face with his own hand. And because of that, the guy tries to run away, but gets shot in the back. Yeah,
so he puts him in the back of the car, and notably, he's in the back of the car for some time whilst a lot of other things are going on, because there's a whole little subplot that comes in here that shows that the son is up to something with his friend. Which I didn't realize what it was at first, but we're breaking into like the other son's dad's got like a phone store or like electronics store, and they steal a bunch of smartphones.
Yeah, so when he called the kids the first time on the night of the costume party, we saw that they were like browsing online for phone prices on like eBay and stuff, and you didn't realize it at the time, but you were able to pick up the idea of this is how they're going to make a bunch of money, is by stealing these phones and flipping them.
Yeah, and immediately the next morning, the police, show up, and he thinks it's for him, and he's been sleeping on the couch. So he just walks out and goes, "All right, officers, I can explain everything. It's all my fault." And then they go to the son, and he's like, "It's my fault because I've been a terrible father. You see, I blame myself for this. What's he done?" It's a funny sequence.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then as the cops are taking the son away to the car, he sees that there's like a little bit of the jacket or whatever of the guy hanging out the back of the car, and he has to like go stand in front of it, even though it's not incriminating at all. Like, it's just a piece of fabric, but he's just like, what's over there, officer? Take my son away quickly now.
And then the wife wants to drive that car, and he's like, oh, okay. So they're driving this car with a dead body in the back, to the police station to go and help process the son and all that. There's a sequence here where he gives some less than stellar advice, shall we say.
It feels like such a man-to-man talk, but like the dad is more so just venting about like his own stuff and trying to turn it into a life lesson.
It's basically like, hey, throw your friend under the bus. It's all his fault, right? Like, don't you admit it was you. It wasn't your idea. It was his idea.
He basically just says like, look, we have to do things that we may not be proud of to save our family, the women in our lives. They are more important than anything else. So you do whatever you need to do in order to save the family. And he's like, what? He's a good talk.
Yeah, and notably he sort of wraps up as the wife's coming up the stairs behind him, and it's like, oh yeah, wrap this up before she hears this horrible advice. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, and then we cut to the idea that the wife is, again, not trusting of the husband to take care of things, so she's got to take this into her own hands.
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk about this, because I actually think this is one of the more fascinating little bits in the whole movie, given how much we focus on, like, Mansu's story. We focus on what he's trying to do to solve his problems. I think it is very interesting that here, Miri kind of has her own little no other choice moment where she decides to try and solve this with an extreme solution that feels like it is jump into the deep end. We see her in the bathroom, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? And she sort of reaches up under her top and she takes out her bra, and you're like, okay, what's she doing that for? And she's put on a little bit of lipstick, and you're like, okay, what's going on? And you don't really know why she's doing any of this. It doesn't really make any sense. And then you see the asshole father of the other kid, right? The one who was going to buy the house. And she walks up to him, and you can tell she's not wearing a bra. It's very clear, right? It's visually prominent.
She walks in wearing the jacket, and she's like, how about you drop the charges? I mean, it's your kid, my kid. We go have a history and all that. And he's like, why would I do that? And then she takes off the jacket, and he's like, oh.
I think you're totally misselling it a little bit, because it's a lot more dour than that. She walks up, she's not happy about it, and she pulls off the jacket, and he sees this and says, if you don't drop the charges, if you don't let this go, my son's going to do a year in juvie or whatever it is. And she's like, I as a mother cannot let that happen. And it's not flirtatious, it's not sexy, it's very, I don't know, it feels like an extreme solution. It feels like I won't say
there's no other choice.
Like there's no other choice, right? Obviously, that's what she thinks. I think that the tone of this is very important, which is why I'm being very specific about how it plays out, because it feels like she's jumping to this conclusion when there's probably 50 other things to try before this extreme. Especially, like, you imagine if you're her son, right? And you find out at some point that your mother, let's just say it, whored herself out to get you out of trouble at some point. Like, how would you feel about that? Probably not great.
Look, I would feel bad in a general sense, but the extra level of it was my best friend's dad, like,
oh yeah,
that just is the extra little, like, oh no, that's awful.
The shit cherry on top, if you will.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a very interesting moment, because this is her. You know, you've been comparing the story to Breaking Bad, and I don't think it's a one-to-one comparison, but this effectively is her Breaking Bad moment of her being like, oh, I'm going to do a bad thing to try and like deal with a situation. And what's interesting about it is that Mansu walks up behind her and she sort of covers up to try and make it clear, you know, so she doesn't see what she was doing. And I think it has a lot of weight, this scene as well, because we know she hasn't cheated on him, right? We know that was a false accusation. So this is actually a big deal that she's considering doing this.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting sequence because Mansu comes up and effectively talks him down and is like, hey, like, I know how they get around your security system. It's because you always have it turned off because you cheat on your wife in that store. You have sex with tons of women. And if you don't want people finding out about that, you'll drop these charges. And he basically deals with it. And there's almost like a little moment where Miri looks kind of like, oh, like her attraction to her husband just reignited because he dealt with this.
It's weird because it's a warring emotion. You can get it on her face. Yes, the attraction is reignited, but she's also like, this is not how my husband acts.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm glad he's taking charge here, but he has never been this kind of guy.
Yeah, so you're right. There's kind of like a mix of like feelings, but there's definitely kind of like a, okay, maybe I do like at least trust him to like take care of things a little bit. Like there's something here. So it's a really
whatever's going on here, at the very least, he's stepping up to the plate. Maybe there is something that can be done.
It's a complex scene, I guess, is what we're seeing, though. There's a lot of like different layers to her reaction, what she was trying to do, how she reacts to how he deals with it, and the fact that he deals with it with a threat effectively is all interesting stuff.
Oh yeah. There's also a recurring motif in this movie where I guess he's not like really focused, really good-minded on like being able to say the words he wants to say. So therefore he writes it down on his hand.
That's right, yeah.
And so during this sequence, like throughout other points in the movie, he just tries to slyly look at his palm. But during this sequence, he bums a cigarette off of the guy so he can like fake taking a hit off the cigarette and like look down at his palm so as to not break character.
Yeah, we see that the first time in the job interview. Actually, no, the first time we see it's when he's going to talk to the Americans and give them a speech about why they shouldn't fire people. So it's this recurring thing throughout where he writes down some important information in his hand that he wants to bring up. So that happens here as well. So no, and then obviously once that's dealt with, well, first of all, him and the wife go and find all the stolen phones and like the son's secret little like attic area that he's got, and they bury them in the plot that he was digging the night before for the body. Sorry, let me correct that, for the apple tree that they're going to plant.
Yes.
But they bury all the phones and like, no, let's just make them disappear. And it kind of feels like, oh, he's bringing the wife in this plan to cover up the crime for the son. And it was making me almost think, will he tell her what else he's been doing that's illegal? And like, will she understand a little bit more after this? Maybe.
I think yes. And it also brings up that idea of she sees how easily this is coming to him. So when later things get revealed, she's like, oh yeah, he was really willing to bury something and just kind of write it off and pretend it didn't happen. Yeah.
And it's funny because like that night, the son sees him in the greenhouse like a little bit because he's got covers up, but they fall down a little bit at one point. He's got the dead body and his plan is to cut it up with a little chainsaw, but he can't stomach that. So he actually gets like the wire he uses for his bonsai tree hobby and like tightly wraps the body into like a naked ball. Effectively, it was a really weird visual. I kind of appreciated how weird it looked, honestly.
Yeah.
But that's what he does, and he buries that and then puts the tree on top instead.
Yeah, but like you said, the son sees it. The son, or at least catches a small little glimpse of it, and he's like, "Uh-oh, I think my dad might be a murderer."
Yeah, well, there's that, but then there's also the police show up to ask questions because now 2 people in the paper business, or former papermen, have went missing. And they're here to ask. Well, and it's not even they're here to accuse him. They're kind of here to be like, "Hey, you could be next. Like you're on the target list for this."
Well, that's the thing. He does the classic idiot thing with the cops of they say these people went missing, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry they died." And he's like, "I didn't say they died. Why do you think he died?" And he has to make up some generic excuse of like, missing, practically dead. I mean, it's all the same nowadays.
I mean, I think you could probably sell that convincingly because I think, most people who do go missing do turn up dead, and you could kind of sell it as a slip of the tongue. But we know, obviously, he's messing up here. So it's the whole thing.
The general, because they lay out all the evidence against him at this point. They basically say, like, look, here's what we know. When you shot this guy out on the road, they don't say you, but like when this guy was shot out on the road, there's a shell casing.
Do you know what I liked about this? I like that they only knew about the second person at first, and the only reason why they connected to the first person is because in investigating the second guy's disappearance, it left breadcrumbs because they knew each other and they'd both applied for this, this thing.
Yeah, as they get this guy's phone, which fell out of his pocket when he was killed, it gets a call from the hiring manager who's like, "Oh, I was calling to let him know he got the job. What bad luck. He's the second guy that I haven't been able to get a hold of."
That was my favorite thing about this, is that it's not even like they've both applied for this red chili thing, because the cops would never know about that. It's that they both applied to the same job that Mansu applied for at the start of the movie, and they're literally going down the same list that he made himself of like who the best candidates are.
And you immediately get like not justification, but like Mansu was right. Like, yeah, these 2 guys were ahead of him. He needed to kill them if his plan was going to work.
So they're like, obviously. He cracks some jokes like, "Hey, I'll message you if I go missing," and like,
"I'll message you as soon as I go missing." And they're like, "What is wrong with you, man? Yes. This is an official police business."
But there's one notable moment though when they're talking to him, and they're saying that the person was shot with some kind of North Korean pistol, and the wife who's in the background she suddenly looks up like, "Wait a minute, my husband has that."
Everything just clicked into place, and she like storms out of the room, and he's like, "She gets upset very easily. Don't worry about it. It's fine." Yeah,
it's like not enough yet. Obviously, after this sequence, the son says what he thought he saw to her, and she's like, "Wait, you thought you saw what?" And that makes her, actually go literally digging under the tree and going to try and find stuff and so on.
Yeah, I mean, we get a long sequence in between all that, but when we do finally get to that sequence, this is where it just starts going insane with the match cuts and the mirroring shots and everything like that of her digging up a grave while he's digging a separate grave for his third kill.
Yeah, because he does a whole thing where he goes out to the guy with the job that he wants and basically talks his way in with some booze. And again, this is the thing, he has not went back on his "I don't drink" like promise the whole movie. Yep. And the victim here basically forces him into it. Like he's kind of getting away with pretending to drink the shots and just kind of pouring them into a bowl. But eventually, the guy's like, no, we're going to take this big beer mug and we're going to do these big shots, and I'm going to watch you take it. Almost like he's suspicious. Like, no, I want to watch you drink that first before I take mine.
Yeah. Well, he specifically, going into the sequence, obviously he's come here to kill the guy. That's what we're going to do to begin with. But the guy mentions saying, "Hey, I've got so much on my plate right now that like I could stand to have a second person doing my job." And like that, immediately you see Mansu's just like, "Do it. Call your guys, tell them you need a second guy, because that would put me as the next person in line for that position, and I wouldn't have to kill you for it."
Yes, without saying that, of course.
Yeah.
But obviously that does not happen. He eventually, it's actually after he's had booze for the first time, where it's almost like he gets the courage to just pull out the tooth. He just goes and gets like a pair of pliers or whatever it is and just
giant
pulls it out.
Rusty wrench out of a drawer, and he's like, "I've been wanting to do this for weeks," and he just rips his tooth out. And this guy is just like, oh my God, you're so hardcore.
And it's like the most extreme way to solve this problem, where it could have just been done in so many more peaceful and healthy ways earlier on. But this is the place he's put him in. So like you say, this is all sort of like cutting back but forward with the wife finding out stuff from the son, investigating, so on and so on, digging up the plot. This guy ends up like still alive but getting buried up to his neck, right? He wraps him up in plastic in like a sleeping bag and stuff and puts him into the ground, and effectively is trying to make it look like he is like choking on his own vomit by like force feeding them booze and food down a funnel and then covering up his mouth so he can't breathe. I think that's what he's doing.
Yeah, they mentioned earlier on, as Mansu was talking to his son after being arrested, was some farm down the road had a bunch of diseased pigs and they all had to be killed off. So I think this is the diseased pork is left over, and he's shoving it in a funnel down his mouth, and just trying to make it look like it's an OD, because after the cops show up and say, yeah, we've got 2 missing persons, he's like, well, I can't just missing persons a third person. I have to let them find the body and not make it look like he was murdered.
Yeah, because he digs them back up, of course, and then puts them on the couch, gets rid of all the evidence that he was anywhere else, and just makes it look like he, died there on the couch, and that's basically it.
Yep.
So,
and nothing ever comes out of that in terms of like police coming to visit or anything like that. So ostensibly he got away with that one.
Yeah, it was convincing. It was a convincing kill. And the big thing, though, is the wife, is that when he gets home and she's like, oh, you've been out all night, and it's this quiet, cold, opening, and he goes to hug her, and she's like,
Well, I do want to call up during that sequence when he's got the guy buried. She video calls then, and they do kind of have a moment where the wife is like, if you are going to do something insane, let me in on it. Like, you don't have to be doing this alone. You can trust me. I'm your wife here. And he's just like, don't know what you're talking about. Gotta go. Bye.
Yep, he still does it alone. And it's almost like when he comes home, she's more mad about that than the actual things he's done. Because he hugs her, and she tries to pull away, and he's like, oh, please just let me hug for a minute. And she's like, okay. And she starts literally counting the seconds. But it's almost like they have a sweet moment in the middle of the hug where it feels like he's like, oh, I think things are going to be looking up, and I've done whatever. But then, of course, it gets cold again when he's like, how much time have I got left? And she's like, oh, 59:60. All right, off it. Like, that's it. Yeah. So it's like, but she has accepted what he's done to the point where she lies to the son and says, oh, I did find something in that buried, plot. I found the dead pig. So it's like, oh, okay, so you're keeping the lie. You're agreeing to maintain the family status quo by covering for him and acting like nothing bad's happened.
But we do get like a mild little time skip here, and you do see that effectively the family has separated. Effectively, he is on his own now.
Well, what do you mean exactly?
Well, it looks like all the rest of the family goes out to the grandparents' house. I got the vibe that they were, to some extent, separated there.
No. The grandparents just bring the dogs and leave.
Is that the case? Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
Because the whole point here at the end is that he's won. He's gotten exactly what he wanted, but, and this is a big but, is that he goes off to work, right? He says goodbye to everyone. He's got his mustache back, so you know that he's back on top. All right. And they stay home, and there's a whole beautiful moment here where the daughter finally starts playing cello, and the wife hears it and walks into the room and just listens, and the daughter notices her but keeps playing anyway. And this intercuts with Mansu's trip to work, which is stuck in heavy traffic with lots of horns beeping, industrial trucks around him. And more importantly, the job interview we saw him get right before this scene, where he does get this job, it turns out that it's an automated paper company where he's the only employee. It's all AI and machines. He's just there to oversee it. And he accepts this, which is notable because the opening of the movie, he was fighting for just 25% of the workers to keep their job. And now he's gladly accepting a place where there's no other workers.
I mean, it's not even just that. When they hire him, they're just like, yeah, well, you're going to be the only one working there, and we're going to have to fire the rest of the workforce. And he pauses, and the guys who are hiring him are like, is that a problem? Like, do you have a moral problem with that? Because that's fine. And he's like, no, I don't have any moral problem with that at all. By all means, fire them all.
Yeah, he's basically, I mean, obviously, over the course of the movie, he's lost his humanity, right, by doing what he did to get this position. But he's literally going back on the thing that he started with and giving that up. And he's like, yeah, I'll take the soulless corporate job because that's what success is supposed to be. And he goes into the place at the end right after he's driven to work, and he's happy. He like does a little dance, but it's empty. All he hears is the whirring of machines, and it intercuts with the daughter playing the cello at home, and that goes back into this idea of like he's committed himself to this corporate life, so he's missing the actual life that he has at home and the beautiful music his daughter's playing, and all he's doing is spending time with machines because this is what you're supposed to do to be successful in a capitalist society, is do well at your job. Like, it's all very symbolic and it all works, and he thinks he's succeeded here, but it's really depressing and sad. And
no, yeah, it just feels like all that warmth and everything else from the beginning, when like he just had this very basic job and whatever, but he had his family, he had the love there and all that's been stripped away. He doesn't have any of that anymore. But again, through his myopic lens, through all that, he doesn't even realize how much he's lost because he was so focused on, I needed the job, and now that I have it, that's all that matters.
And that's why I think it's so important that the family is still together at the end, because it's more like, no, they're still together. He fought to keep the status quo of the family together, but all the soul of it's like gone. Like, or at the very least, the wife looks sad because she's only hearing this on her own. He's not there to hear it as well. So everything about it, and the son's still sneaking out and doing whatever he's doing. Like, it's not like he's suddenly better for it or anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the shot of him driving in. Like, he is in this small little sedan, and he is surrounded entirely by giant trucks, giant shipping things like that. And it's just this idea of he is completely alone. Like, there is no humanity left at all.
Yep. He's given up everything to serve the corporate monster, even at the expense of other people who have lost their livelihoods. And the final shots of the movie that intercut with the start of the titles at the end are just the robots that cut down trees. There's like no... And it's funny that we did Train Dreams back at the start of the season when that was all just people with axes and then eventually chainsaws. Now it's just big robot arms cutting down the trees.
Yeah. Like, it's not even like the branches don't matter. This thing just strips them clean, puts them on a truck, pre-cut, ready to go. I do want to mention the one other thing that we skipped over is that they do have an entire section of him being cleared by the police because the wife of the first guy who actually did the shooting also lies to the police, and they managed to...
To be fair, just to jump in there, to be fair, she has all the motive in the world to lie because she doesn't want to be found as a murderer either. So it just so happens that her... like saying, oh yeah, he does have that gun you think is the murder weapon. He went off with it. Oh, I hope he didn't do something tragic to himself. Oh no.
And just by virtue that these two guys actually apparently did know each other, like prior to anything else, including applying for the same jobs, the police managed to get this completely plausible story of like, they both were going after these jobs. This guy killed the other one because he was favored to get it, and then now he's on the run, presumed suicide. Yep.
So it neatly wraps that up in a way where it's like, oh, he did get away. I think that's the sort of thing where in that moment I was thinking, okay, how's this ending? Because it feels weird if the main character just gets what he wants, but then that's the point. He gets what he wants, and then you see how just sad and depressing it is that he got what he wanted. Like, that's the point. So it works. It's a sad ending.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of all those things of like, the types who get onto YouTube or any sort of social media nowadays, and they're just like, oh, I want to be YouTube famous, whatever. And they start out with like some level of creativity, some level of like what makes them special, and it just gets pummeled out of them. But by God, do they have the golden play button?
Where's my golden play button? Eh?
You still got your creativity, Pete. Hold on to it. Cherish it.
I'd rather have money.
You missed the point of the movie.
I think you can have both. Both's possible.
If you ever see an episode where I'm dressed as Pocahontas and Pete is John Smith, you know that he's absolutely given up.
I think we've got a lot of problems if you're dressed as a Native American during an episode. I'll say that much.
That's true.
But anyway, the movie's great. I think, like you said, there's probably more symbolism in here that there's even a dream sequence the son has near the end where he imagines he's little and he's on the bonsai tree and the father's looking down at him. And it's just a little quick thing, but it's there just for more wild imagery.
Yeah, it feels like there's this entire subplot of like how the son feels compared to his father, or like analyzed by that, and it's like, I'm sure again a paper can be written, but it is so buried deep in here that it's hard to see just on a first go through.
Yeah, and when he comes home after murdering the last dude, he says to the wife, "Hey, like you can quit your job, you can start taking up tennis again," and so on. And she's like, "Nah, I've left that behind." Like, because in his mind, he's all just about getting back to where he was, getting back to the family where it was, and going on from there. There's all these almost like an arbitrary kind of like benchmark that he set himself of like, I'm a failure if we don't have exactly this.
Yeah, I was fully expecting in that last sequence for him to come up with like another gift box. Like, here, I'm getting us more presents. I'm doing the things I was doing before, and them just being like, thanks, but we don't want this. Like, you've completely lost track of what your family's actually doing.
Yeah, and it's sad for like the general sense of what he's given up. It's also sad that the wife, Miri, she is like just kind of sadly accepted what her husband's done, and that it was kind of necessary. And yeah, maybe it will pay for the daughter's more advanced cello lessons, and maybe that is something we can be happy about later. But ultimately, I would rather he was around. It's the same way of him like doing his college degree. Like, because did he need to do that if you had this long, job, tenured job? Maybe that got him a promotion having the college degree. I'm not sure, but like, she would have rather he been present for the marriage rather than that. And now he's missing the childhoods of his kids because he's too busy, with this. So
yeah, no, it's between this and obviously it was half decade ago now, but Parasite. It definitely feels like there's this cultural thing with Korea that obviously is everywhere now, but like there's this cultural thing of Korea, of this idea of like just barely trying to keep your social status and culture and all that, and how easy it is to just slip out of that.
Do you know what? It's funny how complementary these two movies are. This and Parasite, because Parasite, of course, is more about the divide between the upper class and lower class. This is about just the fight to, but they both have that central theme of the fight to be successful or the fight to have something.
Like, it doesn't matter where you're at in the system, you're still fighting. You still want to be able to keep that.
Yeah. Very complementary to each other. Now, Parasite, I think, is the better movie. Parasite was like an all-timer. Like, it was an instant, holy shit, this was amazing. This is great, though. Yeah. And I think I even like it a bit more now that we've talked about it, because there was a lot in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, great stuff. Honestly, it's almost difficult to stop talking about. There's so much in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to at some point. All right, David, what are you rating No Other Choice out of 10?
I think this movie does get up to the 9 for me. I think I'm at that. I don't know specifically what it is that, like, maybe it is just that kind of underlying current that we can all relate to, of like the fear of the current capitalist system and all that sort of stuff, and like how just we all can relate to the main character without approving or anything like that, can specifically say like, yeah, I get it. But no, it's a very well made movie. I am highly surprised that, like you said at the very beginning, it's 2 hours 20, and it does just kind of fly by. It doesn't feel like it is specifically dragging at any given point there. So it's got a craft to it. Yeah, I'll say a 9. It's one of the better ones we've watched throughout the whole season. Yeah,
I think after I finished it, I was like, that's at least an 8. But I hadn't really like locked in like where it was landing above that. I wasn't really sure if it was going like to an 8.5 or a 9. I think after talking about it, I do feel like it is a 9. I do feel like there's a lot of depth here. There's probably depth that we didn't even touch on, that can be further expanded. Little moments or hints that we didn't even mention, I'm sure even give insights into a whole other like layers you could probably talk about and like analyze it through. But as it is, like, it's very compelling to watch. It's entertaining and witty at times, but always compelling, and has a lot of like surface level depth, but also like proper, depth as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. Another great film in Chan-wook Park's filmography. So.
Yep. And then the question here, of course, it makes the cut.
Yeah.
But is it a cut above?
Have we done that for any other movie this season?
We did that for One Battle After Another. That's the only one that was a cut above this season.
Yeah. And I feel like Marty Supreme was probably the one that got the closest after that, but didn't quite get it.
I mean, if you need some input on this, I think yes. I think that this is something that maybe on later viewings I will feel differently. I'll feel like maybe, all the surprise and all the shock and whatever was artificially inflating. But I have a feeling that on later viewings, it's only going to get better because of that symbolism, because of the idea that you can read into these characters deeper on every pass through. And if I'm already at a cut above, I don't think that I'm going to regret that later on.
I mean, I do think I rank it higher than Marty Supreme, which I think my score reflects, to be fair.
We both gave One Battle After Another a 9. Like, we're on the exact same rating level.
No, it probably is. I'm just being hesitant just because, I don't want to just, hand things the highest possible accolade. But yeah, it gets a Pulp Man award from Collector's Cut. Congratulations.
Kudos.
Yeah, it's very good. And that actually wraps up this season. It was a 10-film season, which arguably may have been a little bit too long. I think next year we might just do 7 or 8 if we're doing a 2026 season.
I mean, we pretty much had 2 this season, so yeah, cut it down by 2. I'm all right with that.
Yeah. Although there is another 1 or 2 movies that I've watched outside the show that I'm like, I should have put that in instead. They'd have been more interesting to talk about than the goddamn mastermind. But now that we've finished this season, actually, though, I was kind of having this as my cutoff, where in the next week or 2, I'm going to actually do my own top 10 of 2025 video and have that up on the YouTube channel. Which obviously won't just include things that we've done on this show. It'll include stuff we did in Ace, stuff I did in Screams with Tim, and just anything else I watched from 2025. But this was kind of like I'll finish this season before I do that, because I might be seeing some good movies throughout. So
I'm just trying to see stuff that you did on Screams that I think is going to probably make it. Ready or Not, Here I Come. Strangers Chapter 2.
I mean, Ready or Not, Here I Come is a 2026 movie, so that definitely isn't making it.
Oh, okay, sorry. Black Phone 2. Scream 7. That's 2026.
Why are you trying to troll me with all these bad movies?
It's like most of the most recent films. Like, I'm only seeing low numbers here.
Hey, just be thankful you're not in Streams, okay?
No, I'm very... dude, you would not get any sort of content out of me. I'd be like, I had my eyes closed. I was scared.
But yeah, that wraps up the season, and we go on to our next voyage, starting next episode. A small voyage. This was basically one of my viewers on a stream won the right to pick a little 3-movie season. So we're doing Herstory, which is 3 films based on true stories, based on real people, all focused on women in America who did something prominent. So next week we're starting that off with She Said from 2022. So cheery subject that one, but we'll do our best next week.
Yep. I feel like I need to do some deep dives on things that have happened in the most recent years, and make sure I'm read up on this so I can speak intelligently on it.
Well, we'll see how that goes next week on Collector's Cut. Of course, you can like, subscribe, all that stuff, but most importantly, I want to tell you about Patreon and YouTube memberships, because you can support the show, help keep it coming, get access to the bonus ratings rundown segment we do for each episode, and of course, monthly we do a show called Extra Reels for patrons, where we review some of the worst things ever made. There's like 40 plus episodes of that now, many of which we have rated a 1 out of 10 at the end. Yeah. So if that sounds like something you want to hear us losing our minds over, you can go check out Extra Reels.
Yep, there's a couple of free episodes on the channel. You can see if it's for you. Yeah,
I think there's been 2 free episodes thus far, and no doubt there'll end up in another one sometime later this year. Inevitably.
For sure.
But that is the show, everyone. That has been Collector's Cut. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed our discussion of No Other Choice. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. Keep watching movies, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.